situation you don't realize. So let's examine with a critical eye. Put on your glasses and let it magnify the truth that lies hidden under all those lies. Cause everybody has nobility, and if you look beyond what your eyes can see, you'll see they're just like you and me, and that was giving you the remedy. Welcome to the Remedy Podcast. This podcast is a project of WEBB Squared, a North Carolina nonprofit that works to increase wealth for Black businesses through connection, network, and opportunity. Our host is Stephanie Terry, the Executive Director of WEBB Squared, and our co-hosts are Associate Director Rinnie and myself, Mashallah Salaam. I am the Media and Production Specialist. In this podcast, we hope to bring consciousness to the racial divide and speak on emerging new narratives about race. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you will enjoy the podcast.
Hey, it's Podcast Tuesday. Hey guys, how was your holiday?
The holiday, it was good. You know, we actually celebrated it earlier when my brother came from Texas, like a few weeks before the actual holiday. So yeah, my holiday happened a bit earlier, but it was good.
Oh, that's cool. You know what? I remember it. It happened, and then the day was over, and I was like, yay.
So for you podcast listeners out there, you're going to hear a fourth voice today. We are joined with a friend of ours and a member of our Commonwealth Network and a WEBB Squared entrepreneur. His name is Rob Santos, and that was his voice that you just heard. Thank you for joining us, Rob.
Thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be a part of this. This is great. I'll just be as cool as I can. I always get weird on these things, but I'll try to be as cool as I can. What's that?
Oh, finish what you're saying, Rob.
No, I'm just, like I said, the holiday came and went. I was cool with it. And, you know, my daughter, she got something that she really liked, which was this virtual reality thing. So now I got to be a parent in two different realities, which is hard enough in the real one. Now I got to be one in the virtual one, which is even tougher. I almost cursed the kid out last night. But that's a whole different story. I don't want nobody talking about my baby. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But everything's cool. But go ahead, Steph.
Hey, Steph, why don't you tell us about your babies? You had your babies with you for the holidays, didn't you?
Well, I had my oldest son and Malachi, and it was really nice. I just, it was just eating, just sugar and fat, and I ate sugar and fat, and I'm full, and I've just been eating whatever I want,
Do you know what's interesting? It's funny. They have this whole holiday season, and then the new year comes and everybody says, hey, I'm going to go on a diet, even though they've been eating nonstop for November and December.
What did you make?
I made a magnificent 3-layer caramel cake. And then I made a boozy, half a bottle of rum cake. And then I made some sweet potato pies, and then I made cookies.
Lord.
And it's just, now, we had guests and stuff, but yeah, I've been tasting all of those things along with lasagna.
I'm losing teeth hearing you say all the sugar items.
It's terrible, Rob. That's it. You know what? I decided today, of course, at the end of the day, after I ate everything I wanted today, I decided today that I'm not eating any more sugar.
Yo, good luck.
You mean
I'm
ever,
serious.
or just for the month, or the rest of this
No,
year?
that's
For the rest of the year, exactly, Mashallah. The rest of the year would be dope.
It's 3 days away.
But I get what you mean with that proclamation. I can no longer drink Coca Cola. It tastes like pure tar. There's no significance. It's so bad that I can't taste it anymore.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. I dig it with the sugar though. If there's anyone who's trying to lose any kind of weight, lay off the sugar.
just lay off the sugar.
Lay off the sugar.
That's it.
Totally.
No more sugar.
That's hard. I bought one of those tubes of Pillsbury cinnamon rolls today. You know, it was just like I was at the grocery store and like, oh gosh, I need some cinnamon rolls so bad.
No.
You know, it's just the cravings are just, you know, crazy.
Yeah, no. I'm just gonna have to just be shaking like a addict for
Yo,
for.
that's hilarious. I tell you, you know, I get that, Rinnie. Like, oh, so I took one. So this is the thing. Red Bull is actually, I went from Coca Cola to Red Bull. Now people would think like, oh, that's more sugar. No, actually, Coca Cola has more sugar than Red Bull. Red Bull is just all that caffeine that just punches you in the mouth. So I take Adderall because it calms my brain down. However, my brain still fiends and desires an extra kick. So I drink a Red Bull on top of the Adderall because the Adderall slows my brain down versus some others, it might speed them up a bit. My mind already moves like this. So the Red Bulls I'm trying to lay off of. I haven't had one in about 5 days, which is great for me. Yeah. Lemon water has been awesome. And I get it, like that craving. It's so real. It's such a mental thing than it is like with your stomach.
I'm about to beat it.
I think that's a really great segue into this conversation that we've been having over the last few weeks about our brain chemistry, our mindset, like how our brain functions. You know, we've been talking a lot about identity, Rob, and what does that mean? And so we kind of felt like it would be really great to have you on the show because one, you're going to be in our program as a WEBB Squared entrepreneur, but two, we just went to your comedy show and it was about all of those things that we've been talking about. And I just thought it'd be really great to hear your story here on the podcast and pick your brain about these issues that we've been talking about.
So yeah, let's talk to the guy who doesn't have an identity. I get you. Or has a lack of one. I appreciate that, Rinnie. I really do. I don't want to say I'm a functioning psycho, and you guys got an opportunity to go through all of that. So I appreciate you guys having me, and I would love to answer and have the conversation, however it chooses to go. It's just I don't know. It's tough. It really is. Identity is the biggest issue that I see in America today. I think when you look at everything that's happened with COVID, there's so many people that lost the idea of who they are. So they look at the mask idea and they use that as the excuse. It's like, I don't want to wear it because I'm somebody, or I'm this, I'm that, and you're taking this away from me. It's like, no one's taking anything away from you. But we're just so confused and so scared that we shifted to something else to actually go into the problem at hand, which is the fear of dying, the fear of losing control, and the fear of deciding who we are in all this, because that got stricken from us throughout this process, in my opinion. Yeah,
I think identity I agree with you, Rob, that it is at the core of, this is the most basic question that is at the root of a lot of the issues that we have today. And of course, I have a bias around it because, of course, I have an answer to the root cause of all the problems of the world.
I believe. That's why this is called The Remedy podcast.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I dig it.
I've got the answers. I have a perspective around an answer. But so like, for example, in terms of like the work that you do, Rob, your show was so incredibly funny. But there was something, and I don't know if you said this in the show or if you said it after the show, but when did you assume the identity as a comedian?
I was about 7, 8 years old.
Awesome.
Very, very early. When I realized that I could make people laugh when I felt like it, that's when everything changed.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting you say that, because my whole time trying to figure out, well, who the heck am I, right? As a person having my identity sort of like, I look at it like this, real sidebar, I suppose. If what happened to me mentally over my lifetime were to happen to me physically, I wouldn't be here right now, because my identity was mentally beaten from me throughout the years. The thing that kept me going was the idea of each one teach one, which is the old African proverb, what I adopted when I was 17. But early on, 10 years before that, being a comedian, where I knew I just wanted to be funny and get paid for it. I had no idea what a comedian was. I just would see other people make people laugh, like Eddie Murphy. That was one of my favorites. I was like, I want to do what that guy does. And that's when I knew that was it. I was hooked. And I
Mhm.
started living that truth, if you will, and it's benefited me so far.
And when did you start putting, like, did you have a picture of what it meant to be a comedian? Like, did you just said that, like, who did you just say?
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. So did you picture like the lifestyle and all of that, or did you have like a different vision? Like, were
No,
you picturing rich and famous and movies, and like what came with that identity of being a comedian?
I just knew it was different than everyone else.
Mm.
So when I was a kid, everyone, like, you know, everyone knows everyone. Everyone has their group settings, even very early, very, very early, right? I knew that by myself being funny, I could talk to anyone that I wanted to. And for me, now that I go back, that's a great question. Now that I go back and think about it, it wasn't being funny, getting paid for it was just the idea that I could do something and make a living out of it, even at an early age. But what I really wanted was just to make people laugh. In the beginning, I wanted to escape the reality of what I endured at home. Not saying I came up in a broken home per se, but it was tough. You know, there was a lot of situations that took place with some domestic violence at times, living in a tough neighborhoods and just being surrounded by just a lot of poverty and drug use and alcohol use. And, you know, it was just, that's all I ever saw. So for me, comedy was an escape. It was a way for me, I can stay in the house, I can watch whatever I wanted in terms that was comedy related, and I didn't have to worry about the outside world. And then I would take that and bring it outside. So it wasn't necessarily about being rich and famous. Everyone would say it to me, but it's like, oh, that's cool. I just always wanted to connect before I realized what it was.
Nice.
I appreciate it. Yeah. It was, it's everything to me. I don't know. I don't mean to go on and on, but I just, now you got me thinking like far, far back. I haven't been that far back in a long time.
There is a certain healing quality about comedy. And I remember reading stories about people who were sick, like very sick with cancer. In particular, one woman, she would watch old comedies to help her through that. And she believes that had played a big part in her healing. You know, when she went to the doctor, she found that the cancer was gone because she decided that she would only allow positivity into her life. And one of those things was through comedy and laughter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. I always think about it like this. Think about it from the perspective of like something resonates in your mind and in your heart so much, like your brain processes the information that's being presented. And the only way that you can, like, you can't even convey words to what you're listening to, that you start laughing. That's a crazy involuntary reaction to me. And when I think about that, it's amazing. Like, I can't articulate what I'm thinking and feeling. And the only way that I do it is by whatever comes out of my mouth. And when I think about what you just mentioned, Mashallah, it's like, yeah, like it does something to us. Like whenever you're confronted by the truth, what it breaks us up in a way that really causes us to think differently and feel differently. And you're forced to confront it at times, or you just run away, right? Sometimes having someone make you laugh is a way to, it's like, hey, look at this, now look at this. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's that switcheroo that they do on you. And it's just like, oh, I remember that thing that was there, but this is more poignant. I'm like, oh yeah. And now that makes sense. And now that connects. And then it just changes everything. That's interesting now. Like the mind is insane. How you can just say, I'm done with this. And then everything just changes. Mm-hmm. I understand that. I respect that. I think that's such a great story to bring up, because they say laughter is the best medicine. It's just the involuntary reaction. It's amazing to me personally, like that.
I know it is. I never thought about laughter that way, but that's exactly what happens. It's like you don't even have words. You just have to, like, your body just expresses, like, it goes into these convulsions.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like when I knew that I can do that and when I wanted to, it changed everything.
Yeah.
I needed even at an early age, I needed to understand why, how, when, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. And I just trained my brain from very early to understand before I even knew what it was. So whenever you hear a joke, there's the elements of a joke or an idea, a story, whatever it is. It's premise, which is, what is this person saying in this story?
Mm-hmm.
There's a setup, which is the information that's provided to give you to sort of coincide with the premise to further it along. Then there's the misdirection / punchline that hits where the laughter kicks in. And then after that, when someone adds to the joke that's pertaining to the original premise or the punchline before it, that's considered a tag. And then they tag it. And then that's when people start, so that's the math of it. I learned how to do that at a very early age, just by listening to people conversationally. I'm listening to this dude named Butch in my neighborhood. He was like the neighborhood storyteller. And I was like 9 years old, and I was playing marbles and I heard him talking. But he was talking, and they would laugh. The laugh would go down a little bit. He would start talking again. Laugh would go up. It would go down, and then he would talk. And I'm like, yo, do y'all hear what Butch is saying? How he's doing this? And my friends were like, nah, like, what do you mean? Yeah, we're playing marbles. Let's go. It's like, early 90s. I'm like, super young. But I heard it. And then I would go back and I would listen to Butch talk, because that's when it all changed. And then when I saw Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and George Carlin and, all these other guys and, Carol Burnett, Mel Brooks. the list goes on. Early, that's when everything changed. And I was like, that's what they're doing. And I read this book about Lenny Bruce. I'm like, oh, that's it even more. And then it all made sense, and I knew what I wanted to do. And I realized the math and the science behind it. But then I really wanted the heart of it, the soul of it. That was more interesting to me than anything else.
Beautiful.
Well,
Rinnie, what do you think?
Well, I was just sitting here listening to you talk about your journey coming into your own as a comedian. But what I was really struck about your comedy show was that a lot of the subject matter is very deep and very personal, and it's things that people don't usually talk about, and that you're able to put it out there and you make people laugh, but some of it's just raw and painful as well. And there's a certain genius and a certain madness to that, because I know like the deepest wounds I have, I'm not going to be putting them out there like that, and I just kudos to you for being you and being in our universe and being able to share that with us.
Listen, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Rinnie. I just I was trying not to laugh, because it is weird to hear someone else say it the way you said it right now. And Steph, you were there too. The way we all interpret things differently. And for some people, it's deep, it's raw, it's ugly, it's all these things. But for me, it's like, yo, I love it. It's like, bring it, like, let's do it. I love it. I don't know anything else. I'm not, I could tell someone I love them. I can say, I love you and hug and all that. But the ideas and the jokes that I have is to tell my family, my friends, or whomever it is that's watching. It's like, I love you guys. I care about you. I don't know how to genuinely show you outside of this. But if you watch what I'm doing for ever long period of time, just know I'm giving you everything I have. I'm willing to die up there if I have to. But just know that I love you. And this is the only way that I can truly express it.
Yeah, expressing love through your identity as a comedian. That's pretty awesome.
Well, I appreciate that. Trust me, it was tough in the beginning. I've been cultivating these ideas for so long. The cancer stuff with my girlfriend, it always hits people, and it hits her too. But I like it a lot because it's the truth, and it's how I felt. It has nothing to do with anyone else. The fun part about it is when people interpret it differently and try to make it about them.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, I've pissed off a lot of white women, Rinnie. Because they all come up to me about their nanas and mimas and about how my such and such died from cancer. You need to know your audience. Well, I don't know what your name is, miss. And the first thing you talk to me about is your dead grandmother. Interesting. My grandmother died of cancer. So think about it like this, right? We listen to music. We can accept music taking us to a certain place, right? Typically, music can bring us to a space where we're younger, where we go back and we confront a truth or a situation that took place. And now, for some reason, music is associated with a good feeling, even if it gives us a crappy feeling or anything like that, especially anyone who's experienced something. I listen to this song when I'm down. May not be the happiest song, but I connect to it. It makes me feel pretty. And then you go back to whatever that situation was. But however, the mental connection that we have with music and consider it to be good is it's okay, right? Now, with comedy, not the same thing. I can take you to a place that people are afraid to confront. So music, oh, it makes me feel good. It helps me cope. It does all this. With comedy, it's like, oh, you brought me to this place. I'm offended. Comedy is so much realer than music, in my opinion. Even though music is beautiful, it's wonderful. But the emotional stabbings that people take when it comes to comedy is so much different, because now you're being confronted with the truth that you may not even wanted to experience, because now you're experiencing this truth and it's not laced with a melody. It's laced with words now. So now we interpret the connection that we went back to that might have hurt us. So now it's like, I'm angry, and the person who's saying that is that comedian. Now I need to go at him because he's the one who made me angry, and I have to stop. I want that person to stop. He is the reason why I feel this way, versus, wow, he just said something that made me think. It made me feel about what it was like to have my grandmother alive. I miss her. I connect with this story. No. Why is he making me think about my grandmother? I need to go tell him how awful he is. The visceral reaction that comedians get is because we take people to a place that they're afraid to go to. However, you never know. Maybe you needed to go back there to confront the issue and find a way to cope so that you can move on.
Yeah.
Maybe they're helping you out with something that you didn't expect. That's why I like comedy as much.
Yeah, I actually want to know, what was it like first introducing that joke to your girlfriend? Were you nervous? How was her reaction when she first heard the joke? And how did y'all, I guess, deal with that?
So I have two girlfriends, my stage girlfriend and the one and the real one. Stage girlfriend fucking sucks, right? But no, so I'll tell you what, this is my philosophy. This is how I do things. I don't give a fuck, but I do give a shit. I don't give a fuck how it goes down, right? But I give a shit about how I present it. I give a shit about how it's coming out and how I feel about it. And that it's being presented in a way so that people can have an understanding that what I'm saying is just not a bunch of words to make people upset. So I adopted that mentality very early on. So I would do shows with like other people back in the day, and my girlfriend would be in the audience, and they were like, "Oh shoot, like Rob, you talking about your girl? She's right there." It's like, yeah, and you know what I'm saying? What is she gonna? I don't know. It's just what I feel. It's not her. It's just what I feel. I'm taking the idea and stretching it. So when I first started doing the idea, it was ugly. Oh, it was ugly. It was very, very ugly. But it was okay because, you know, I had to do it. And the beginning of it, it made her really uncomfortable. To this day, it still makes her uncomfortable. And because she doesn't understand, in my opinion, how special she is to me and how special that moment was for us to get through, and how we went through so much stuff that I'm willing to say, hey, this is what it was like. And this is what I was thinking and was feeling. And I think this is interesting. So she's not 100% upset with it. She's uncomfortable with it, but she understands that it's what I do. But on the flip side of that, she'll eventually see how much that story is going to help people. She doesn't see the long term just yet. But eventually she'll see where I'm going with it. And to answer the question fully, I guess, it's like she still feels weird about it. I did a set last week with her in the audience talking about it, but it's my way of saying I love you and I didn't want you to go. I just don't know how to do it the regular way.
Listen, I think writers and comedians and even musicians and artists, you know, your family is going to be your muses, whether they realize it, whether you disguise them or not. They usually inspire you in some form of fashion. So especially your relationships.
Right. Like John Leguizamo was a big influence on me. He went through some legal stuff with his family from his first specials, that One Man Plays and stuff like that. So, you know, because he mentioned them and, you know, just, you know, defamation and all that. Hopefully my girl doesn't sue me if we ever, you know, break up. But if I can break down the idea to you, because Mashallah, you weren't there. The idea of the cancer bit, as I like to call it, it's not, I was afraid that that when you hear cancer, you think it's over. So I went through my mind about how scared I was and how I processed the information. And then I made a connection about how people with mental health, we don't get the same kind of love and respect that people with a physical ailment do, especially like cancer. And how can you attack cancer? Cancer is the ultimate one. Like cancer, COVID was so bad that cancer got jealous. And then, like, legit, like, if you really think about it, like, they started doing PSAs, like, hey, people still get cancer out there. We still kill people more. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, that's how bad it was. And I saw PSAs legitimately on, like, yo, get checked up. We don't get cancer. But when you hear that C word, it's just like, boom. So how am I supposed to attack the ultimate, the king of everything, the one that we can't mess with? Well, with the mental health sword. And, you know, laced with the idea that, well, we want to be loved just like you. Why can't we get the same thing? There's so many of us that take ourselves out for whatever reason due to our own mind, but we're looked at differently. People typically say, oh, I wish there was more that I can do and blah, blah, blah. When it comes to people with cancer, I want to do everything. You don't know how to handle that. So that was the idea of letting people know. It's like, yo, we suffer and struggle too. We don't want to be number one.
Right.
We just want to be treated as if people even care about us.
Yeah.
It's almost like if I were to say something like mental health lives matter, you know, that type of deal. Ooh,
right.
I should use that now. That's very funny. But you get what I'm saying, Mashallah?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, this was awesome, Rob. Awesome. We're not going to take up too much more of your time. I know you said it was a long day.
Oh, I'm actually getting in the groove now, but I really appreciate you guys. No, I got more time. I forgive me. I feel like I'm rambling and speaking out too long and too much. I get excited on podcasts.
No, I mean, we've been discussing all of these kind of things over the last few weeks as we head into 2022 and begin our mindset trainings and workshops. And so I'm going to ramble my way through this question.
Sure.
But so much of what you are doing is, as a comedian, you're building your business around all of these issues of mind, mental health, your struggles with, you know, just being sane. And that's your business. That's what you as an entrepreneur are focusing on, is just these issues and stuff. That's very unique, because most of the time when people like say, I'm going to start a business, it's like, oh, they're going to have a little store, or they're going to, like, you know, provide a service for somebody. You're not selling anything. The service you're providing is just being you and authentic and real and honest.
Right.
So I don't know if you have any perspectives or thoughts on that. I mean, where do you see yourself taking this? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I
want to get to Oprah status. Because if you think about it, the business of Oprah is to make people feel good. That's it. Oprah hasn't done anything significant since she quit her show. Just being honest. However, the idea of Oprah is much bigger than her. When people see Oprah, they feel something, and there's a value to that. So that's my thing, right? So when people come see my shows, they're not there to see comedy. They're not there to see mental health talk. They're there for an experience. I'm not selling comedy. I'm not selling truth. I'm selling a feeling. And that's whatever anyone wants to interpret. And there's a value to that. Look what happened during the pandemic, the way people felt. They didn't understand it. So they all ran the therapists. Same people that were talking trash about all of a sudden needs one because they felt a certain way. Whenever anyone makes a purchase on anything, it's not necessarily about the actual thing they bought. It's about how the thing they bought made them feel. Christmas. This whole thing is about how we feel. Get to open a gift. Oh, feeling. Oh, feeling. All wrapped around that. So I essentially thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if there was therapy for stand-up comedians, so to speak, or for individuals who are experience tough times at work and they want to do a team building exercise and they can feel comfortable with the person that they're working with? What is the price tag would you put on that feeling?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, Rob, because you know, you're always you know, some businesses, you have tangibles, you have like specific things that you can touch, but you're absolutely right. There are some occupations, I should say, where you're selling either, you know, an experience, and that experience is always about feeling. And even when you're selling a product, it's still, you're right, it's absolutely, like Coca Cola doesn't, you know, rave about the ingredients, all the sugar and shit in the soda. They sell, you know, the experience and the feelings attached to having this soda, you know, at your party or hanging out with friends or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right that what we're really getting at are those intangibles, those feelings, those experiences that, you know, people want to you know, escape from their normal life. Or with comedians, it's even more unique and valuable because you're looking at, like, you're also providing people a lens or different perspectives to look at the stuff that we all do.
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
know, with like a completely hilarious, you know, looking at all the inconsistencies in it and the hypocrisies and just, you know, wow, this is what we do. And it's funny, you know, we think it's serious, but it's actually stupid and funny.
No, exactly. Like, I totally, and I hear what you're saying. That makes a ton of sense. Like the Coca Cola thing, exactly. You it's the opening of the can, and when you first sip it, you know, like I thought. For me, one of my older jokes was like, I always wondered what it felt like to be white, and I always thought like you would that feeling is when you open up a can of Coca Cola and you get that first sip, and you go, white. Like that's what I always thought it was. You know, like that feeling that you had. Like that's the whitest thing that I ever felt in my life. So, you know, and so like that feeling is what makes us want to have that product in our hand. Like it's
Right.
funny you say that, Rinnie, with the, like, yeah, I made my business mental and emotional health, but I stumbled onto this. I never set out to do it this way. I remember being locked in at a mental institution in New York City, and when I developed the idea for Each One Teach One, which is the workshop, which is the comedy just happens to be the medium in which I use to help people figure out what's they're like. The whole motto is the Each One Teach One workshop, where the journey is more important than the joke. And then the other sidebar to that is where we will stop letting our minds fuck with our heads. You know, but I stumbled onto it, and it's because like I got sick and tired of watching celebrities and people of merit saying it's okay to not be okay. Yeah, I get it. Okay, now what? What are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, what tools and skills can we use to be able to help people to understand that it's okay to not be okay, and then be able to live within that realm without, you know, flipping out. It's like, oh, thanks Snoop Dogg for saying that. Now I feel better now. No, like, you know what I mean? It's just like a weird thing where it's just like what are you saying? And like I said, Rita, I stumbled onto it, but I think it was always there because it's always been a major part of my life. And how are you going to understand how your brain works? You can be spiritual and clinical, you know? And the way I've learned it is there's two sides of the brain. There's the emotional brain and there's the rational brain. But within the middle of the two is the wise mind. So it's the emotional mind, rational mind, and then the wise mind. Wise mind is a mixture of the two that allows us to think and live skillfully and understand what our emotions are. All our emotions are just triggers. They're just like, think of it like a spider sense. It's just like, oh, Rinnie said something about, you know, stumbling on to, you know, ask me about the you know, the mental health stuff. Okay, so when she said that to me, first thing I thought about is like, oh, I like that. I like where she's going with that. That makes me feel good. Okay, well, how am I going to behave accordingly to the information she provided to me? You know what I mean? And that filter is what I use. Now, the spiritual end of it is just like, I feel that my feet are going in the right direction. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what the end goal is going to be, but I know within my rational mind that I'm making the proper steps. And the feeling that I have with the emotional mind is allowing me to get to that wise mind, stick those two together so I can make the proper choices so I can behave accordingly. Does that make any sense?
It does. It does. So again, thank you, Rob.
Appreciate you guys. For sure.
We gotta start doing our podcast in the morning, y'all.
Listen, either way, if you guys want to get me for a part 2 and you want me to come in the morning, I'm all for it. If there's anything that I would say before we take off, is that this world hurts me
Yeah.
very much. I'll be honest with you guys. Mostly every day I wake up empty. I don't feel much of anything. I ask myself, am I empty or am I in tune? Which one is it? There's times where I don't want to be here. Don't know what that means. Does it mean I want to make that choice? When I ask myself, what does that mean? It's just like I see the world and I see the people around me and I see all these things that are happening amongst us as human beings, and it hurts like hell. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, why am I even here? Why am I getting up? I personally feel that if we learned how to mentally and emotionally regulate how we think and feel, that we can handle anything.
Yeah.
And I believe that with all my heart and soul. We teach that to our kids about mental and emotional regulation to understand what their emotions are telling them. And we will be able to conduct our behavior in such different ways where we're not shooting each other up, fighting over mask mandates, not believing what information is being said to us.
Yeah.
If there's anything I can say to anyone, if anyone can go read Marshall Linehan's, it's a workbook. It's about DBT. Marshall Linehan, if anyone will look that up, that book, that workbook saved my life.
DPT?
DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy. I typically have it with me. I didn't have it this evening. But if anyone, dialectical behavioral therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT and DBT, look it up. Please give you, even if it's 5 minutes, just take a look. Anyone who listens to this, I ask of them, I beg of them to take a look, and I'll shut up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Rob, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And you guys let me know when you need me. I'll be available for y'all.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Well, thank you all for listening. And as always, the revolution begins with dialogue. This has been a joint podcast of WEBB Squared and Afro Future Productions. For those of you interested in learning more about our work at WEBB Squared, you can find out more at webbsquared.org. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This is our conscious conversation. We hope you will subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. Join the Remedy Membership Forum on Patreon to join us monthly for our members-only discussion. That's it for today. Until next week, thanks for listening. What's underneath the situation you don't realize? So let's examine with a critical eye. Put on your glasses and let it magnify the truth that lies hidden under all those lies. Cause everybody has nobility, and if you look beyond what your eyes can see, you'll see they're just like you and me, and now we're giving you the remedy. The remedy.